I get eager staring at a list of business desktops, scrolling past a dozen options, and the big question keeps popping up. Will this one actually make my workday smoother, or am I just tossing money at a shiny box that ends up gathering dust? You've probably already heard the usual sales pitches about ultra-quiet design and dual 4K support, but those sound great only until you plug the machine into your real-world workflow and see whether it lives up to the hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video I'm going to walk through the Dell 2025 ECT1250 business desktop the way a buyer would, looking at the specifics that matter when you're running spreadsheets, video calls, and maybe a bit of light development, and pointing out the hidden trade-offs that don't show up in the headline spec sheet. First off, let's put the machine in the context of a typical office or home office setup. Most professionals in this segment need a reliable workhorse that can juggle several applications at once without hiccuping, keep a large amount of data on hand for quick access, and stay quiet enough not to become a background distraction during conference calls. The ECT1250 ticks those boxes with an Intel Ultra 5225 10-core processor, 32 GB of DDR5 RAM, and a 2 TB PCIe SSD. Those numbers are impressive on paper, but what they really translate to is being able to open a hefty Excel file, a PowerPoint deck, and a web browser with multiple tabs, all while keeping the system responsive. I've seen users on similar setups report that they can run a virtual machine for testing code alongside their main workload without a noticeable slowdown, and the 32 GB of RAM is what makes that possible without constantly hitting the swap file. The storage side is where the real-world benefit becomes obvious. A 2 TB PCIe SSD isn't just about having a lot of space, it's about the speed at which you can pull data in and out. Think of loading a 1 GB project file in a design tool, or pulling a large client presentation from a shared drive. What used to take 30 seconds on a traditional SATA drive now happens in under 5. That kind of time saving adds up across a day full of tasks, and for a business that bills by the hour, those seconds turn into dollars. Now let's talk about the ultra-quiet claim. Dell's engineering team has packaged the components in a chassis that uses larger fans running at lower RPMs, which translates to a noise floor that's barely audible from a typical desk height. In a shared office space or a home office where you have a microphone on for calls, that quiet operation can actually improve call quality because there's less background hum to get picked up. I've heard from a few remote workers who mentioned that their previous desktop was constantly buzzing, and it was enough to make them raise their mic gain and pick up more room noise. The ECT1250's quietness solves that subtle annoyance without sacrificing cooling performance. Connectivity is another practical area where Dell tries to earn points. The machine comes with a suite of ports: USB-C, multiple USB-A, HDMI, DisplayPort, and Ethernet. For a professional who needs to hook up a dual monitor rig, a docking station, and perhaps an external hard drive all at once, those ports mean you won't have to reach for a dongle every few minutes. The dual 4K monitor support is especially handy for anyone who spends time in data-heavy environments: multiple spreadsheets side by side, a video feed on one screen, and a chat window on the other. The only catch is that the graphics are integrated, so while you can drive two 4K displays at 60 Hz, you won't get the same performance as a dedicated GPU if you plan to do heavy 3D rendering or gaming. Speaking of graphics, that brings us to one of the hidden trade-offs. The ECT1250 is aimed squarely at business productivity, not at creative professionals who rely on GPU acceleration for video editing or 3D modeling. The integrated Intel graphics are fine for everyday office tasks and even for light photo editing, but they'll struggle with anything that demands sustained GPU horsepower. If your workflow includes Adobe Premiere or Blender, you'll likely hit a wall unless you add a discrete GPU later, something that the Dell chassis does allow, but it adds cost and complexity. So, for pure business users, the integrated graphics are a non-issue. For creators, they're a limitation. Another practical consideration is the upgrade path. Dell's business line is known for decent serviceability, but the ECT1250's design makes it a little more closed than a custom-built tower. You can upgrade the RAM in the future if you ever need more than 32 GB, and the SSD is on a standard M.2 slot. But adding a new graphics card or expanding storage beyond the existing slots may require opening the case and dealing with proprietary mounting points. For most businesses that plan to keep a machine for 3 to 5 years without major hardware changes, that's acceptable. If you're a tech-savvy user who likes to tinker,